Three-quarters of the world's honey is laced with neonicotinoid insecticides, a new study from scientists in Switzerland has shown this week. The findings are based on an analysis of nearly 200 honey samples collected from around the world with the help of citizen scientists on every continent, except Antarctica, of course. Neonicotinoids are the most widely used pesticides in the world now, and scientists suspect that by getting into pollen and nectar, they're also having off-target effects on pollinators like bees. This is the first comprehensive global study to look at how widespread these effects might be. Dundee University neurobiologist Chris Connolly has written a commentary on the paper, and he shared his thoughts with me.
Mitchell et al. Have collected honey samples from across the globe and then tested them specifically for the presence of these neonicotinoids. These are the new insecticides that are like nicotine that work on insects. And the startling thing that they found was that 75% of all of the samples contained at least one neonicotinoid. Several samples contained 2, 3, or even 4. So this really demonstrates how ubiquitous these chemicals have become in our environment if they're turning up in so many of our honey samples.
Were they present in levels that we would regard as biologically relevant?
Yes, the technology is very sensitive. It can detect 1 part in a billion, which is equivalent to a drop in many Olympic swimming pools. And originally this was used as evidence for them being harmless, that it was so small it was virtually not there. However, these are actually neuroactive levels for insects. And although they won't be lethal, they will still be active in the bee brain, and it will affect how the bee can learn and remember and communicate, etc. In terms of humans consuming honey, the levels are so small, and then with the fact that neonicotinoids have very low effectiveness in humans, which makes them much safer for us. The risk to humans from consuming honey is, as far as the evidence scientific knowledge is, minimal, if not non-existent. However, the indication that neonicotinoids are in honey makes one wonder how many other chemicals might also be there.
Food for thought. In terms of what it's doing to the bees, though, you said that these are likely to be present at neurologically relevant levels in the bee brain. What does it do to the insects?
The insects use the transmitter system in their brain to learn and remember and to communicate. And so what this does, it looks in the brain like an artificial neurotransmitter, and it hyperactivates the brain, which could cause like epileptic convulsions. So the impact on bees and other insect pollinators is that they can no longer use the learning pathways efficiently to, for example, learn to associate the smell of a flower with the sugar reward or the pollen reward. So this actually causes a decrease in their ability to forage for food. It also causes a decrease in their ability to pollinate. Now that means pollinate our crops and also our wildflowers, etc.
And where are the bees getting the neonicotinoids from? Because these are sprayed onto crops or added to seeds by manufacturers and farmers, aren't they? How do the bees end up ingesting them?
So what happens in the seed coating or spraying is that the neonicotinoids hit the soil. When a plant germinates, it takes up some of these neonicotinoids, and it moves everywhere throughout the plant. It's in the leaves, in the stem, it's in the nectar, and it's in the pollen. So this is how they get directly exposed. However, neonicotinoid that doesn't get taken up by these crops spills out into the soil, which is about 90% of that which is used, and then moves and can be taken up by other plants, the wildflowers.
There has been a ban on their use in some crops, though, by the EU, hasn't there?
That's right. So in the EU, then 3 of the neonicotinoids, not all of them, have been banned specifically for the use on bee-visited crops. However, 70% of neonicotinoid use is not on these crops. So therefore, the secondary uptake from the soil can still possibly occur. We don't know how big an effect the secondary is. The European ban, and combined with this new study showing that we can detect neonicotinoids in honey, gives us the opportunity to assess how effective is our partial ban in the EU. Because if bees are still detecting neonicotinoids since the ban, then we know that a partial ban is not going to be effective, and we have no option but to move towards a total ban. The problem with the neonicotinoids is not that they're being used to target specific pest problems, but that they're being used as an insurance policy. They're used in case a pest attack occurs later on. So probably a large amount, if not most, of the neonicotinoid use may not be required and may not benefit. It certainly hasn't been a detrimental effect on our crops since we're not being allowed to use them on bee visited crops.